And let's take a look at those interest rates. So I want everybody to just shoot on down to where it says short-term interest rates and click on short-term interest rates. Can everybody see that? It's 6.1. And when you get to 6.1, click on next, and then click on next again, and you'll get the last one in the series called federal funds rate.
Excuse me.
Yes, Mike.
When I click next, it says you do not have permission to view the site.
Really?
I'll look at it.
What?
On this one.
Anybody else have that problem? Did you pay your taxes on April 15th? There we are. I had always a reason. Oh, listen, let me suggest something. Sort of back up and try again. I guess you did that already, no?
No.
Sometimes it just, did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it has a little nervous breakdown. And, you know, okay. Is there a therapist in the house? All right, so there we are. And now look at those interest rates. Now, you can see what I'm getting at. The Federal Reserve controls the federal funds rate. This is the rate at which the Federal Reserve lends reserves to the nation's banks, and it controls the federal funds rate. And you can see those fluctuations, and you can see what happened in as we came to the end of 1999, get on to 2000, down went the rates. And you can see the Federal Reserve did what it always had done. Now, you're going to say, but Mike, what was going on in the early years here? We'll get around to that a little later. This big increase and then the big decrease, we'll cover that before too long. Now, so is everybody set on what happened? All right, now, one more thing. What I want you to do is click down on this next one. Well, I shouldn't say next, it's 6.3. It's called private borrowing. And click on the private borrowing. Now, this is all kinds of non-financial borrowing. In other words, this is all kinds of borrowing other than borrowing of one financial institution from another. So, if there's mortgage borrowing, this is in here. If there's consumer credit, this is in here. Anything that households do. If this is borrowing that businesses do to finance plant and equipment, it's in here. If it's borrowing by the rest of the world, anybody in the rest of the world from an American financial institution, done for non-financial reasons, it's in here. The only thing that's not in here, really, other than borrowing by financial institutions, is federal government borrowing. The federal government borrowing is not in here. This is private, okay? And it even includes state and local government borrowing, because so much of state and local government borrowing behaves like private borrowing, because the borrowing is for special districts, like Bay Area Rapid Transit or the California Water District or something, and these are bonds which, they're not general obligation bonds, because most states and local governments are not permitted to deficit spend. The federal government, of course, is. Now, once again, it's obvious what happened, isn't it? You can see the line collapse. And you can see that borrowing is associated with economic expansion, and that whenever we have a recession, the borrowing drops. What happened lately? It collapsed. The boom we had lately, like all booms, is associated with borrowing. People borrow to finance spending. When the borrowing and spending stops, the economy falls. What was key to the borrowing during the dot-com expansion? Business borrowing. What was key lately? Mortgage credit. All right. Now, let me ask you this. Why did people feel they could take on more and more debt and it wouldn't matter? Why did they feel comfortable with borrowing to the hilt? And in order to help you think it through, I've constructed this simple little balance sheet. Assets, liabilities, and net worth. Right? Just a T account. Assets on your left, liabilities and net worth on your right. How does it work? It's simple. The objective is to build net worth. In other words, if you have a $500,000 house and a $300,000 mortgage, then you have $200,000 worth of equity or net worth in that house. And you hope one day that if you pay it off, then the liability is gone, so on. If you have a bank account, that's all asset, no liability. Now, people were taking on a lot of debt. That obviously meant, as they took on a lot of debt, that the proportion of their net worth didn't grow. But what was everybody hoping? What was the big hope, Mike?
The price of housing would keep up.
Everybody was hoping that the price of housing would rise, because if your home values rise, then the asset rises in value, and if the asset rises in value, then of course the net worth rises. And also, people were hoping that the value of their stocks would rise. Now, one way to build your net worth, of course, is to save, isn't it? One way is you save. In other words, you put your money in the bank. But a few years ago, you would have thought, that's for chumps. Who puts their money in the bank? The idea is you go out and buy stocks, go out and buy real estate, they rise much more quickly, and so on. Now, what happened to real estate in the last few years? Well, it started to go up and then it went down. But why? Can anybody give me the dynamic? What happened? Because this is the first time that something this dramatic has happened since World War II. We've had other local, regional real estate booms and busts, but nothing like this since World War II. So give me the, what would be the right word? Give me the anatomy and physiology of it, Rob.
One reason is the L got a lot bigger than the A. So the net worth therefore became negative. Therefore, in return, people who couldn't afford their houses and were losing their houses, foreclosures went up.
Okay, but that's sort of step, I think that's several steps down. What were some of the early steps?
Ability to pay.
Mike?
Ability to pay.
Yes, but what?
There's a lot of houses out there.
Well, there was just a lot of the low interest rates, of course. The low interest rates and the easy terms prompted people to buy. And of course, the buying, of course, bid up the prices.